Okay, so we're starting 3 days worth of notes on one idea. This topic is going to be slope. So we'll break it down into 3 videos. So your essential question is, what is slope? How can we find it? So slope is just going to be another word for growth. So we're not actually learning it's a new vocab word, but it's a terminology that we're familiar with. So when we're looking at a graph or a rule, we've been talking about how the graph grows. We're now going to switch our vocab and we're going to use the word slope. So go ahead and get all of this copied down. We'll talk about how we find slope, a new way to find that growth, and then we'll do some example problems. Okay, so your first example or your definition here says to find the slope on a graph, we're going to find the rise over the run. So that's something we need to get kind of ingrained in our brain to memorize this idea of rise over run, rise over run, rise over run, rise over run. So what does that mean? What it means is when we're looking at a graph, we're going to find 2 coordinate points, 2 dots. And when we look at those 2 dots on the graph, we need to find the rise. The rise is the distance between those 2 dots up and down. So the vertical distance from one dot up or down to the next dot. And then the run is the same idea. You take those 2 dots. The run is going to be the distance between those 2 dots going left to right, left to right. Okay. So what does that look like? So go ahead and get this graph copied in, and then we will practice together finding the rise and the run. Okay, so let's start with this orange-ish guy. I'm going to pick 2 dots. So I'm going to start with these 2 dots. Now the easiest way that we find that rise first. So from one dot up to the next, we want to know how far up. So making those little growth triangles again can be very helpful. How far up? What is the rise of this? Well, from one dot to the next, it's 1, 2, 3. It goes up 4 plus 4 because it goes up. So on rise, we're just going to put a positive 4. And then the run, how far is it left to right? This one's easy. It just goes over 1. So then the run is a positive 1. We write that as a fraction. So the slope of this line is then going to be 4 over 1. And we always simplify our fractions. This one can just be written as 4. So that should have been a pretty easy one. So this is an easy way for us to find the growth of a graph. Okay, let's look at the pink line. Going to be a little bit trickier. So here, some 2 dots I'm going to look at on that pink line. So I'm going to make my little triangle. This time I have to go down and over. Okay, so rise is the difference up and down. This time it's going down just 1. Because it's down, it's going to be a rise of -1. And then the run is the difference between the dots going left to right. So I'm going to count. That's 1, 2, 3. To the right is positive. So the run is 3. And so the slope, we write that as a fraction. Our slope is then going to be -1 over 3. And you can't simplify that, so you just leave it. The slope is -1/3. So again, it's just the idea of finding 2 dots, make the triangles between them, and then count the rise over your run. So now we'll have you try 2 on your own. So stay on this same side of the page if you can, and copy these lines down, and then try and do that blue one on your own. So you could have picked whatever dots you wanted for the blue one. Go ahead and pick these two. For my triangle, this time we have to go down and over to connect our dots. So our rise, how far up and down we go, 1, 2, 3, and because it was down, it's going to be -3. So the rise for this, hopefully you got -3. And then the run is easy. It's to the right 1, so that's a +1. Put those together, you get a slope of -3/1, which simplifies to just -3. Okay, go ahead and do the green line. So again, it doesn't matter which 2 dots we choose. You just need to pick 2 dots on the line, and then you connect them. So this one, I go up. So the rise of this is +1. So the rise is a +1. The run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right is a +5. So when we put those two together, we'll get a slope of a rise of 1, run of 5. That can't be simplified, so 1/5. So that's how we find slope just on a graph.